While we're on the topic of dragging the Bruce Lee story, first just want to comment that at least three of those fight scenes are, I think, the greatest fight scenes ever put to film, like gold standard in terms of mixing incredible choreography with really impactful storytelling. And the story of those fights stays with me as much as the choreography. So if you had any stories of just your influences or your thought process behind telling the story through those fights, like, you talked about the video and stuff like that, but again, what influenced you in crafting those fight scenes?
I also sat with Rob Cohen and I try to make him visualize, because it's important. So many directors don't visualize when it comes to fights and stories and fights. So I sat with Rob Cohen. Rob Cohen and I were very, very close. I always told him that Ice House fight is like an old movie. It's got to be old style. It's got to be real. It's got to be to the point. There's got to be a lot of feeling and emotion in the fight. And it's got to be fast and quick. That was part of it. So that was my favorite piece in the movie, because we didn't grow up with comedies and light humor when it came to Bruce Lee. One little smile, one attitude, humor or something effect. But the way they arranged the Bruce Lee story was more light comedy. And my visions of it was very dramatic. And that's why my favorite scene is the Ice House. And I'm the most proud because that's the most Rob Cohen kept. And my second is the demon at the end. There are many reasons for that, because that seemed to be old style. Again, I revert back to the old style and the sharpness and the quickness. I wanted to do two things with these scenes. I wanted to bring realism, because I don't like cuts. I don't like CGI. This is a movie about Bruce Lee, so it should be as to what we saw in his movies. Some kind of relationship. So, the demon was a favorite of mine for two reasons. The guy who played the demon was a guy named Sven Thorsen, and he's a very, very close friend of mine. He was the old gladiator in the movie The Gladiator, the old guy with the tiger, and he's Arnold Schwarzenegger's best friend. He's an action actor, and I got him that part. And that part had a lot of heart in it. And when I wrote everything that the demon did, and because it was his son, so that needed to have a lot of heart in it and a lot of sympathy. And I wanted you to be on your toes, like just cringing. Is the demon going to get to the kid? And that's when Bruce Lee goes berserk, and it was nunchucks. So I wanted Jason, I worked with him on nunchucks. Doug worked with him on nunchucks. Nobody else did. In 6 months, when you're not an athlete, you can't learn a weapon really, really good. You needed moves very basic. The old this, of course, and the spin, and then do a flip and catch him around the neck and choke him out. That's the end of it. So those two scenes were my favorite. The other scenes I was very sad, and I think Linda was very sad about it too, and everybody else, because when we first started, I had many meetings with Linda and Brandon, and we were told as a whole at these meetings, that it wasn't the same script as we saw in film. I think if you see some interviews with Linda or some writings, she expresses that she was surprised too. It wasn't the film that she thought it was going to be.